And welcome to the UIS Prairie Stars Coaches Show on Campus Channel 65. I am Tony Black, joined by women's soccer head coach Pete Kowall. Pete started out well this season. In October, unfortunately, went downhill. Talk about your season, your thoughts on the season.
Yeah, the beginning started out really well. I think we were moving the ball around quite a bit and scoring some goals, and then we got into a hard part of our schedule, and the truth came out a little bit about us being inconsistent, and that was basically the story of our season. We were inconsistent. We played really well at Missouri Science and Tech. One of the proverbial, everything happened right the way we wanted it to, scoring goals, defending enough to not let them score. But other games were just too many mistakes and not enough goals. In the end, we didn't score enough goals this year, and our defense did better than they did last year, but we're just too inconsistent and didn't score enough goals.
This year, you had several 1-0 losses, and how difficult are those as a coach to talk to your team after the game after about a 1-0 loss?
Yeah, like we were at Umsel, and we in the first 20 minutes had 3 shots on goal inside the 18. And if any one of those had gone in, the nature of the game would have changed. Obviously, there was still a lot to be played, but it could have changed. It's a confidence thing. At Missouri Science and Tech, we had confidence. Against Lewis, that was a very physical game. We had confidence in that game. And I think in some of the games we had results, we had confidence. And as the game wears on, you don't score, you don't create chances, you don't maybe have that confidence. And for the players, that's big.
The last game of the season against Quincy, you were previously talking about you had looks against Quincy right there in about a minute span where you had 3 shots, 1 hit the post, 1 bounced off the keeper. How frustrating is that for your team and you? And
I think it's disappointing more than it's frustrating. I think you train all week to do certain things like score goals and pass it and be organized in the back, and then you try and display those things on Friday and Sundays, and it just didn't work. But the Quincy game was one where I felt for the first time, and Dave was missing one of his key players. They're going to the NC2As this week along with 4 other GLBC teams, and they were a very good team. They moved the ball around very well. For 20-25 minutes, we were chasing the ball, and when we got settled in, we had some chances. But they're a very good team, and they've been to the tournament. They were ranked early in the year as high as number 6 in the country, so they're a very good team. But yeah, I mean, more proud of my team than frustrated or disappointed, because a year ago, 2 years ago, we were not even in the game. A year ago at their place, we weren't even in the game. I mean, we barely could get the ball down the field. So very proud of my team in terms of competing against those types of teams and the level of competition.
What were your thoughts about your team overall and how they improved and how they grew and all that?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we let in less goals, and I think for me, defensively, we still have a lot of room to grow in that area. If you can cut those in half, then you're in a lot more games. The top teams in our league give up a handful of goals every year, and so when you multiply that by any number, you're just not going to be in games. And so there were some games where we let some goals in, and some of that was youth. We're still, after 4 years, young in some positions, and I think next year we won't have that excuse, but we'll have the experience of saying we just need to do that so this happens. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Your front line is going to be experienced and led by Aaron Egoff, who's going to be a senior. Your backside is going to be also experienced, though, with an incoming goalie. So talk about how the defense is going to help that future goalie.
Yeah, I think we're losing Jamie in the back, Jessica in the back, but I think we have 3 or 4. We have a rotation of 5 or 6. We lost Cam at the St. Joe's game with an ACL. That hurt us a little bit in the depth in that position, but I think we're going to be fine. We have people coming into preseason next year that know exactly what we're trying to do. They know all of the formations that we're playing in. We know the tactics. And in the spring, we work on little things like, can we do this and can we do that? And that's really, can we work together to do that, to, I don't know, surprise the other team or do this, and that's going to lead into the fall. So I'm excited about that opportunity, and they should take advantage of that, and I'm sure they will.
One of your sophomores, Hannah Fife, had an improvement of a season this year after her freshman season. Talk about Hannah and what you thought of her year.
Yeah, I think, she obviously can play it with both feet. We moved her into the outside mid position after her freshman year, and she did well. She can cross the ball with either foot. She can shoot the ball with either foot. She hit the post right after the halftime against Parkside. If that goal goes in, then it's like, boy, complexion of the game is so much different for us. And so, she scored a really nice goal at Missouri Science and Tech. Much improved. And you can go down the list of all the other kids too. I mean, little improvements here and there, and some of it's just maturity and knowing how good this league is. We have 5 teams going to the national tournament, and there could have been several. There could have been a handful more, based on how good the league is.
And Aaron Egoff named All Conference again this year for the second time. How big is that for Aaron to be named to the All Conference team?
Yeah, I think it's great. Obviously she's very competitive, and so she wants to see the team do better. And I think if she was sitting here and you asked the same question, she would say, "That's great, but I'd rather the team win a few more games." And really, we're the off season started the day after, and basically within the rules, we're going to do everything we can to improve on what we're doing. And obviously, we're almost there, and we need to get to that point where we're saying we are there and win some more games next fall. And replacing her is going to be a huge task, almost impossible task. So,
what do you look forward to next fall?
Well, hopefully more maturity and more wins, and scoring more goals. Really getting a team that's confident in their ability to win every day or have a better chance to win every day. We were in a lot of games this year that we lost. I would say maybe a couple of games that really we just were out of it. But for the most part, we were really in all those games. And for us, really, to create those goals that really get us over the next hump. The other thing is our defense really, we really need to limit the other team from scoring, more than one goal. I can't say we want everyone to score just one goal, but we want to limit our goals more. We want to, lower that number and really, compete in this league. We have a good home slate of games, and, our road games are going to be challenging as well, but we have a good home slate next year. So I'm really looking for, getting up in, the standings and getting our name up there a little bit more.
All right, play Notre Dame. Who's going to win the NCAA tournament?
Wow, that's a good question. I think, Grand Valley's been good, year after year. I always pick them just because they play our GLVC teams. And every time, I've never seen them play, but every time, and I know Dave, he's a great coach, but every time the GLVC coaches come back, they just reload every year. So I'm probably going to be pretty normal in picking them.
All right. I want to thank you for joining me, Pete. So long, everybody. Welcome back to the UIS Prairie Stars Coaches Show. Once again, I'm Tony Black, joined by Angie Riggle, the volleyball coach at UIS. Angie, talk about your thoughts on this fall.
Thoughts. I would say, our record didn't reflect it, but I felt like that we were very competitive this year, both in conference and non-conference matches. It was disappointing that our record didn't reflect it, but like I said, I'm proud of the girls for the work that they put in.
And you guys won a lot of first sets this year, but unfortunately lost the next 3. What was that a confidence thing, you thought?
I don't know that it was a confidence thing. I think it just reflected our youth again on our team, and it's something that we had talked about at the beginning of the season, and again at the end as we're going through end of season individual meetings about how we just need to figure out a way to finish matches at this point. But again, I think it showed the youth of our group.
And you had several new kids this year. Talk about who you thought grew up as the season went on, and who you thought played well, and who's going to be part of the future of this volleyball program.
Well, I hope they're all going to be a part of the future. I think overall as a group, everybody grew, especially during the second half of the season, which we kind of talked about was after we came back from the crossover tournament. The second part of our conference season really started that next weekend, and I think if you look back at our first match compared to even our first match after that conference weekend, I think everybody did a lot of growing up. But yes, we had 9 new girls that came in. I would say that all of our freshmen really stepped it up too. So hopefully will lead us in the right direction in the future.
What going forward? Your thoughts on next fall and all that?
My thoughts, I would say that I guess there's a bigger expectation now that I think we're finally past that stage where we have to bring in large groups of a recruiting class. So I guess the expectation is that much higher on my part as far as where we have to perform in future years, that I feel that we only need a couple of recruits to bring in to complete the volleyball team. So we're going to get past that youth factor and have a lot more experienced players from here on out.
Of the freshmen returning, how much maturity do you normally see from a freshman going to a sophomore?
Oh, a lot. And that's even from the end of our fall going into our spring, and that's what I've kind of emphasized with them as far as keeping their spirits high and getting over that frustration factor, that there's a lot of growing up that happens even in this next semester in our spring season that we have, that I tell them that they would be amazed at where they ended the season in the fall and where they go in the spring season. It's a huge, significant difference, both from the coaching aspect, and I think even the players feel it and notice it themselves too in the spring.
How much teaching do you get to do during the spring season when it's not into real competition?
So much more than the fall, and I guess that's, as a fall sport, that's the frustrating part with the NCAA rules sometimes, that we don't have that a lot of time to prepare. Number one as a team, and then number two individually. It's more focused on the team in the fall, and spring we have that much more time. We really focus, actually that's our primary focus when they come back from Christmas break, is individual skill work first before we actually go back into team practices, and that's where you see the significant difference in the team, because we're allowed to focus on the individual aspect first and foremost.
Do you and Carissa often just watch video to see where the area that somebody needs to get better? Is that how you do it?
I do. We go back on season and we do it as, I primarily do it as the head coach. I'll look back on tape from the season, but, I kind of talk to a few of the players as we have our individual meetings, things that kind of stand out initially in my mind as far as what we need to work on individually, and even as a team. Sometimes we talk about that a little bit, but I, as the head coach, will look back at tape from the season to kind of, figure out additionally, besides the things that pop into my head automatically.
Now, with the postseason coming up this weekend, what are your thoughts on who's going to win the GLVC championship this year?
I'm not going to... I plead the fifth on that because if any of them watch this and hear what I have to say, it's going to be, it'll be a good conference tournament. I think anybody has got a chance, and I think I've said this before, that with our Great Lakes Valley Conference, that any of the teams really have a shot at coming out on top. And it's a crazy league that sometimes a team will come out on top in regular season conference standings and somebody will upset them at the actual conference tournament.
A lot of people have picked Hillsdale to just run away when they end up hosting the NCAA regional here coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know if you got a chance to look at Hillsdale during the crossover, but what do you think about the GLIAC?
Well, hey, the GLVC came away with the traveling trophy, so I think we have a legitimate. Bragging right as far as the stronger conference. But I did not watch Hillsdale, but, again, traditionally there's some strong teams that, people talk about, but when it comes to tournament time, there's always the underdog that comes up with the upset. So.
All right. I want to thank you, Angie, for joining me today. And I want to thank everybody for watching. So long. I'm Tony Black.